highest triggering headline that I saw this week was Genies raises $150 million at over $1 billion valuation to create metaverse avatars. So Genies makes avatars that people can customize to their own needs and provides celebrities with avatars that can be used as stand-ins for online events. And they raised $65 million in May last year and now need another $150 million to build this. And don't worry, they've reached 99% celebrity avatar market share. What the fuck does that mean?
So we had a Wolf 3D. The guys from Ready Player One, the CEO from Ready Player One, the Estonian
Ready Player Me.
Ready Player Me. Sorry, Ready Player Me. Really great. Timu Toke came in and talked about his company, and they've been doing this for a long time.
Overwolf is a great company. That's the mod company.
Not
Overwolf.
Right?
No, oh, sorry. Ready Player Me. Okay.
There used to be Wolf 3D, and then they're Ready Player Me. His valuation wasn't this, and they have like the whole thing. They have like thousands of clients, all these big game companies and entertainment companies, you name it, and they are able to like it's just crazy. And then we talked about his company. You can go back in the I'll link it into this podcast. And now I was reading this news, like $150 million to make exactly what Ready Player Me was already doing for a long time. Sounds weird. I just need to understand, like, what's the difference?
I mean, this looks like a Bitmoji competitor. Like someone or groups of people are taking a big bet that the future of social networks are 3D virtual worlds, and in these there will be some service like Bitmoji that wins the equivalent of VR texting, and so that's what a bet in Genies is. That's what it looks like.
But you do you honestly believe in this, or are you just playing?
I'm not saying I believe in it. I'm trying to reverse engineer the hypothesis. Because I've said before that like I don't believe in. I think to be mass market, VR and AR is really going to require contact lenses, and until we get there, and even once we get there, we probably prefer Discord over hanging out in future Second Lives.
Okay, so this company's valued at $1 billion when there's plenty of already existing avatar companies out there that this is now competing with, and this isn't even included in any games.
Right.
So Dean Takahashi tweeted this out, and Tim Sweeney, probably just livid, looks this up, replies to it, and it's just like, so what games do they work in? And Dean Takahashi, of course, replied, none. So why, like, the big question I have is, like, they built this kind of avatar system that anyone can technically use, but why would any scaled game developer want to use their system, right? Like any social network, like say Apple or Facebook or anybody, they would build their fucking own, like they would build their own avatar system, right? Like I think all of these companies chasing after the metaverse, right? They all want to build up the infrastructure and own the largest piece of the pie of that metaverse, right? So why in the hell would they ever, right, use these guys' avatar system instead of just building their own, right? When they could drive so much more revenue from that. And like it does not cost $65 million plus this $150 million to build an avatar system, right? Like what they're showing is so simple. I don't know. Can anybody defend this?
I mean, I was actually talking about the business model with Timo, and he was kind of trying to explain how they're thinking about making it. There's like if you use one avatar in multiple different games, how you get making like revenue from here and revenue from there based on your usage, almost like Apple Arcade type of approach. Just check that.
Super speculative. That's super speculative.
I think, exactly. That's what I mean.
It's
unclear.
I think in order to buy into this round, you have to both believe that the metaverse will be a thing and also that interoperable NFTs will be a thing. And
that developers will want to do that, right? That they'll be
right.
They'll be incentivized
exactly.
enough
That's
to
what I mean by
want to
be a
leverage
thing.
this
Like
system.
you have to, in order for this company to pan out, both there have to be a series of popular, successful 3D virtual worlds that have all chosen interoperability because consumers want it.
Yeah.
that's not something I would invest my time in building, because I know the challenges to interoperability. It's like placing a difficult bet on an already difficult bet, and it's almost too many. I don't have a long enough view of what I believe the future is going to be to make that sort of bet.
So doubling down on interoperability, there was another triggering headline this week, and I really wish Cress was here because I feel like there would be some yelling in the background. So, Digital Pets Company has launched crypto dogs for the metaverse. Okay, so it's an AI-driven 3D digital dog that you can bring as a companion through all of these different metaverses. With the quote being that in the coming decade, we will see more and more virtual spaces where people will spend time, but those spaces will be very empty and lonely without suitable content, which connects people and establishes substantial social relationships. Dogs, which are man's best friend, make us happier and help us connect with new people. So they're building 3D dogs. I don't understand the AI-driven part of it, but okay, like you're building 3D dogs you can interact with that then can carry through all the games. And even like right on their website, they're showing all these VR games, right? And they're like, hey, we have a SDK that you can throw into this app. So they've got like Beat Saber. Why the fuck would I play Beat Saber to interact with a dog?
You don't want your dog dancing beside you as you...
Like, why, again, like, interoperability. Why would any developer of a VR game spend the time adding your dogs with a completely different visual style to their VR game, completely different rendering technology, right? Like, think of how difficult, like, integrating an SDK is into a developer already, right? A developer is very sensitive about things like, how did you create that SDK, and is it going to cause a whole bunch of bullshit memory leaks in my code, right? Now you're doing it on a full graphical scale. It just completely brushes that aside, right? So, and again, like VR chat, which would be the only app that I could consider this being added to, because they're like, they don't really have a visual style. You can just kind of throw whatever the fuck you want in VR chat. Why would they do this? Why wouldn't they just make their own goddamn dog thing, or open it up to their creators to build dogs for their app? Right, like
Adam, you're preaching to the choir. I remember that I was talking to a VC from a pretty substantial European VC company, and that's how I actually got introduced to Timu, because they haven't invested into his company, but I think they were planning to invest or investigating, and he kind of like mid-sentence started pitching this company, and I started asking exactly these type of like logical questions, like what would you do about this, what would you do about that, and he was like, yeah, well, it's like the VC just totally brushed it off and be like, you should just talk to Timu about these. So meaning that they hadn't thought about any practicality.
They hadn't really put some critical thought
and
to
that's
it.
how I ended up talking
but I knew a smart guy that I think has the right answer.
Exactly. Just talk to the CEO. Like, I saw the deck, it made all the sense. We were thinking about putting in a couple of hundreds. So but I'm curious, like, Eric, you were at these crypto parties on GDC and other ones, like, do these deals get made in these parties? Because they sound like it.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I didn't get the sense that people were like talking shop per se, but yeah, that was the weirdest party I've ever been to. It was just like, I didn't know what planet I was on. Like, I was talking to some of these people, and like, I was like, so what do you do in games? And everybody was a VC, by the way. Like, oh, I invested in Web3 games, and I'm like, oh, cool. Like, ever work in games? No. How big's your fund? 800 million or whatever. Well, where are you based? Like, I travel all over. I don't have a home. And it was just like, that was everybody. And people were wearing clothes that like looked like they came out of an episode of Saved by the Bell, dressed weird, and everyone's hair was weird. It was just like a very weird environment. I didn't feel like, I'm at a gaming party. I felt like I was.
So are we old Hackers. Now? Like, are we all just old now?
It's just like,
it's just it's a very different, I don't know, group of people with like different backgrounds and different motivations, right? And it's not, I don't think a lot of these people aren't like gamers, right? And they're not, they don't see this as like an exercise in bringing games to market. It's just like, well, I'm really into crypto, and games are probably like the tip of the spear in terms of consumer adoption, and so that's where I'm going to invest my time and money. But like, I think my sense would be like any of the people I talk to, first of all, they're all like 20. But any of the people I've talked to, they never had attended a GDC before, right? Like it was GDC was like, oh, this is a crypto event within the context of gaming, right? They didn't see this as like, you know, the legends of gaming are here, and you know, and you know, it's like there's this long history of game development that is celebrated here. It's like, oh, this is crypto. This is a crypto event, but with the consumer vertical that we were focused on is gaming. And then the next week they would have been at a fintech event, right, with talking crypto, right?
Yeah.
But have any of you met somebody who has got a good perspective on interoperability that sounds like actually a feasible model?
Yeah, I did a podcast with the Stardust team, the founder and the chief business officer, and the point there was like not that, you know, interoperability means this asset looks exactly the same and has the exact same characteristics and traits in game A as it does in game B. It's more like there's a spec, and my ownership of this asset is sort of guaranteed in this other space. But it could look different, it could behave different. Like it's just based on the spec, right? Like on the ownership. And the reason you would want to offer that, and this I thought was a pretty compelling argument. The reason you would want to offer interoperability is that it's a good marketing tactic, right? Like, hey, you can bring your assets to this other game. I'm going to allow you to do that, right? And so that makes it appealing for someone to like want to try that game, because it's what I've invested time and money and energy into farming these assets or building these assets or whatever it is, and I want to keep them. And so not offering that dissuades people from enjoying and engaging with the game, right? You know, I think you know, there's another aspect to this, which is, you know, interoperability, you know, can kind of be like a pull mechanism, right? Like if you remember, Clash of Clans came out, and then there was Clash of Clones, right? Like that whole, you know, tsunami of Me Too games. And what a lot of those games companies did was they approached like the tier 2 clans in Clash, and they were like, hey, you're never going to be tier 1. You just can't. You had to be here fast. You had to be here first. And so these other clans will forever be better than you. If you want to be the top dog clan, if you want to be a top clan, you have the first mover advantage in our game, right? And so we'll like kind of bring over that clan structure, and we'll help facilitate you shifting over, so that, you know, you can be a competitor in our game where you'll never be one in Clash. And like, so that kind of dynamic seems like it could take root here. It's like, hey, well, you worked hard, you got all these assets, but look, you're just never going to be a top competitor in this game, or you're never going to have, like, you just get sort of like aged out of some, or not aged out, but like, what's the right word? You get elbowed out of some games, right? Like, because if you weren't there first, there's a finite number of assets or whatever, and people take them, and so you'll never be able to compete with like the people that were there first, the golden cohort. And so it's like, well, come be the golden cohort in our game. We'll honor all the assets that you own in this game. You can bring them with you, right? And that's like, I think, a compelling hook. That's a compelling kind of carrot to bring people into a new game.
But that assumes that you have an almost like cloned economy, that you can actually recreate all those assets in the same way. And in this case, like, just moving a clan over and the people within it doesn't seem like that big of a problem. That seems like pretty simple. But the moving assets over, like, I've earned all of these cosmetics, means that in that second game, I'm kind of kneecapping that progression vertical, that economy, for my own game, right? Like, if I'm bringing over all the cosmetics that you earned in that other game to mine, that means that I can't sell them. No, I have to produce all of them to make sure that they work in my game,
right? And
I'm not making any money off of them.
Yeah, of course. I'm not saying there's not challenges. Of course, it's very challenging, right? Because game economies are very delicate and they're complex, and so you exponentially increase the complexity when you have to honor items from some other game, and like, it's very difficult to do. I'm just saying, like, that did seem like an argument in favor of, like, well, interoperability does add value, right?
Right. Well, in that example, that provides value to the vampire, right? The attacker who's trying to siphon users off the game. But it is a prime example of why, you know, Fortnite would not want their objects to be interoperable NFTs. They've already won. Why would the ability for someone else to siphon off their players be of benefit to them?
Well, but
it would have to be that the secondary market sales royalty would increase so much from other games using my thing, that it would turn into revenue for me. And I think you're going to have a hard time finding someone to sign up for that.
And I'd love to build that model to say, like, what percentage of that cap table for that specific cosmetic set would make sense as the developer and make sense as the original publisher, right?
Yeah, I hear you. But the other thing is, like, you can think about this in the Fortnite context. Like, well, they have a lot of IP-based characters and skins, right? So, like, what happens if the IP holder says, no, look, I want this to be an interoperable NFT, essentially. I want this to be able to exist everywhere.
If you're Nike, why would you want to sell one permanent cross-game NFT license to Epic instead of selling 20 licenses to 20 different people, right? Like, how is that good for the licensor if it's cross-platform?
I thought you were the crypto cheerleader. Why am I defending this to you?
It's because just because I believe in the ability of crypto to help me build a better game economy within one game. I don't. The interoperable vision is a really tough one for me. I don't really believe in it. I think exactly somebody's gonna
was talking about. That's what he was talking about in his episode. Like, if you pay 10 ETH for something, then if you're using in this metaverse and then you take it to another game and the third one, they kind of calculate based on the time of usage and how much is allocated between different games like that.
Right, but even I mean that then requires, so like there's no standard that's not baked into the code right now. So that requires each game that signs up to integrate the Ready Player Me avatars to give money back to Ready Player Me for that. Or is he talking about creating a pool based on their secondary revenue share and then sharing it with the creators of those NFTs?
They know exactly what's going on.
So I think we have to do like a podcast or like just a debate directly with somebody like Tamu from Ready Player Me and actually directly talk about this, because I think all four of us are skeptical about it. Maybe
it's
not
just
super.
I am skeptical. No, I was just saying when someone else told me that I thought was a reasonable argument.
Right.
No, look, I'm skeptical of that too. Where I think interoperability can work, and you're seeing this happen now, is a lot of these platforms are kind of like, they're designed to be the crypto asset management platform for games, right? And I think within that platform, maybe, right? If it's like, it's got to be a controlled environment, but then you're also kind of working against the tide with respect to crypto, because it's centralized, right? The whole idea of crypto is like, can go anywhere, any place can access this, any game can like pluck it off the blockchain and say, hey, this is available to you in our game too. That I see no future in. But I could see with, Com2Us just announced their platform, right? Within that platform, they have like a specific set of these NFTs that can be interoperable, because there's been thought put into how does this fit into the economy of all these different games, and that's been like thoughtfully designed. I don't think like a free for all, like any asset can be in any game. Of course, that's never going to work. That's impossible. But I think like if it's very deliberate and thoughtful, maybe that's a value prop to the user, because it's like, hey, well, you invested a lot of time and effort and money into acquiring this item. Well, guess what? Good news. You're able to use this in other games, but I think that would have to be all constrained within the scope of one platform, right? Where that design can happen.
And it becomes then almost like connected to that publisher. So like Com2Us has a very strong incentive to pull a bunch of games into their platform,
right?
To add to that value. And whenever they look at the P&L of an individual title, they're including that.
Right. You'd almost think about like as cross promotion, right? Within it's probably the same kind of calculus, the revenue calculus that you'd think about. Like, yeah, we acquire these games, we can cross promote people around. We acquire a user into the portfolio, we get 3 LTVs out of them instead of 1, right? Like it'd be that kind of thing.
Yep. Yeah. Which is great, which I think I would absolutely be on board with. But then these companies that are building these individual pieces and then getting billion-dollar valuations, like building the dogs, right? That doesn't work, right? Like you have to be the Com2Us in this situation, right? You can't be the dogs.
No, I agree. I'm with you. I was stating another argument that I thought was pretty compelling. I love the artist guys.
It's good. That's what we're here for. All good.
Yeah.